Good day, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are having a What's This Then? About Dying Light the Beast, which is Techland's third entry in their first-person zombie parkour RPG hack and slash them up. That's a genre. So yeah, developed and published by Techland. Third one now. Comes after Dying Light 2, not too long after Dying Light 2. Which was a bit of a disappointment by most people's estimations, mine included. Just something about Dying Light 2 just didn't really do it for me. Didn't feel like an evolution of Dying Light 1. However, could that be expectation based? Because I can't really figure out what makes this one more enjoyable for me, because I am having a good time with this one. But I wasn't really having a good time with 2. Like, it was okay, but they quickly faded out on it, whereas this one I'm having notably more fun, and I have been struggling to pinpoint exactly why, but honestly there's so much from 2 that I just find forgettable that it's hard to exactly pinpoint like what I didn't like about 2, you know. It just felt like an overall miasma of just meh. Whereas this one kind of feels like a return to form, but when I think about it in the details, like there's not a huge amount of difference, you know. Maybe it's more in the feel. You know, maybe things just feel nicer overall to actually just play the game. The story's also better, I would say. It's more interesting while also being more hands-off, giving you more time to enjoy the zombie killing aspect of the game. Whereas I felt like in Dying Light 2 there was quite long stints of not gameplay, like story-wise. But before we hop into the game itself, we're gonna go through the options menu here. And just a little bit of context, I have played about 6 hours of this so far. This is, as always, my first impressions of the game, as well as I have played all of those 6 hours in co-op, so that will be where my viewpoint is coming from, and there will be a few issues to talk about specifically to do with the co-op side of the game. Let's hop into the options menu so we can talk about what's going on in here. So, game. You've got stuff like difficulty level. All right, this defaults to story. We've actually been playing on Brutal, which is the hardest difficulty. It's been having a good time with that. I'd personally recommend it. But you've got like loads of different things that you can mess about with here. Lots of little gameplay tweaks. Enable hints if you want those. Swap weapon, like how that works and stuff like that. Head bob reduction. By default, this is on 0. So if you want to turn that up. So it works in like the sort of backwards way than I would normally think it, like where you would have head bob and you would say no for no head bob. This is how much reduction of head bob do you want, you know? So it's a little bit like that. Flashlight movement delay, you know, just to simulate the fact that you're not just, the flashlight is attached to your character's face. Auto sprint, no, it doesn't use stamina or anything, much like the other one, so you can just have this on and just sprint everywhere you go if you wish. Monkey bar auto jump, that's where you just swing from like little swingable areas and stuff. I have this just off, don't really feel like I need to have that on. Auto ledge grab, this is probably quite nice. I haven't tested around with it off, but I like it the way it is. This one's an interesting one. Jump type, standard and lowered jump. Just as a side here, I love that it shows you what the setting actually does on the right there. We love a good settings menu that just tells you, hey, this is what this does, without having to go and tweak it and test it and all this sort of stuff. Very, very nice. Yeah, if you want a more demanding parkour challenge, as it says there, you can put on lowered jump, and then you'll have to be a lot tighter with your jumping, or a lot more careful with your routes. You can't just jump a little bit further. It's an interesting one. I haven't changed it from standard. I haven't really felt the need to. Brutality level, this is like the level of gore and dismemberment, and that is one place where this game kind of feels like it's a step up from Dying Light 1 and 2. The level of gore in this is quite heavy, but we'll get into that once we're actually in the game, and I can hit a few zombies for you. Streamer mode disables any licensed music, and also disables nudity. Haven't seen any nudity personally myself yet, so not sure where that's going to pop up, but apparently it's in there. And there's also this Isus or Syncs, whatever, and car GPS system. Whenever you get in a vehicle, there'll be some lines on the ground to show you where to go to get to your objective, because it can be quite a dense experience driving through the city in a car. Because obviously it's more designed for you to be jumping on rooftops and parkouring on things, but so that is very nice. I wouldn't turn that off if you're actually wanting to use the cars to get to places rather than just drive around for fun. Then you have HUD. You can mess around with all sorts of stuff. Everything in the game, you can pretty much just turn it off. And there's also just an actual HUD preset where you can just turn it all off immediately. But you can also tweak like how certain things work. If you just don't want to turn it off specifically. There's a lot of really cool stuff in here. This is just all fantastic, like giving the player tons of ability to tweak the experience how they wish. Really, really good stuff. Accessibility is really good as well. Got motion sickness, you got your usual subtitles and stuff like that. You also got like QTE mode if you don't want to mash your buttons, you can just hold it. Also colorblind mode, and then the mono audio output. Speaking of audio, not really a lot to talk about in here. You've got music, SFX, and speech. Would have maybe liked these to be a little bit more granular. The 3 is a little bit simple, but audio output, you can change that obviously to whatever way your audio is coming from. I've got mine on headphones. Now let's get into the video settings. So by default, all the advanced stuff is hidden. This is mostly just your basic stuff. So you've got windowed mode, window borderless, tweak your gamma, HDR, VSync, always have that off for me personally, safe zone, dynamic resolution scaling, which I never use, FPS limiter, it's very nice, it's in increments of 1, which is the best way to do your FPS limiter, very nice. I just set it at 180 because I don't want my GPU trying too hard. Now, for this part where I've got DLSS and it's set to balance and I've also got frame gen on here, this is because I have a really good base FPS. So with DLSS set to quality and frame gen off, I can hit about 120 at all times. This is at 4K with a 4090 and all the settings maxed. I just want to get that a little bit higher. So I turn on frame gen just so I can pump that up to about 180 because I have a 240 Hz monitor, so any chance I can get to use that, I tend to like to do so. But the game runs really, really well in terms of its performance, so you should not have any issues, especially if you're happy enough just using DLSS. Again, I don't think you should have to. I hate the fact that this, for a lot of games, has become kind of a band-aid solution, especially with the wave of UE5 games coming out. It feels like publishers are just saying, don't worry about learning how to optimize that too much. Just throw it out there because DLSS will just be the patchwork. Kind of looking at you, Borderlands 4, with that one. But this game does run really well. I just have this set to DLSS balanced. Balanced instead of quality because the most recent version of DLSS is actually balanced and quality don't really look all that different. It's almost imperceptible, for me anyway, so might as well just get the extra frames from balanced. You can also tweak the sharpness. I always do that because frame generation adds a little bit of blur, usually in my experience, so I like to turn the sharpness up to sort of get that back. And then you've got your latency reduction, reflex and boost and all that sort of stuff. And then you've got field of view. I hate that it is a vertical field of view. I don't know why anyone uses vertical FOV. It's just not like a standard that anyone really knows. Now, don't get me wrong. I love that there's an FOV slider, but I just wish it was a horizontal one, you know? Because, like, what is, 77? Like, what does that mean in vertical? I know what horizontal, 90, I know that's good, because that's what most things use. I never know if this is like an engine thing or just like a personal choice thing. I can never really be sure. But it's good that it's there. I cranked it all the way and felt like that's fine. It doesn't feel like too fish-eyed or anything like that. So, but it's good that it's there. Controls, you've got fully rebindable keys. You've got mouse sensitivity, mouse smoothing, auto aim. Apparently there's a grapple hook in the game. Good to know. I mean, kind of expected that. And then online, you can set your game privacy. And there's also this call for help. You can set it to never, which there's a system where when you die or at certain points in the game, it might try to search you up with other players. From time to time, it does it sometimes, this game mode for sessions with moderate frequency, and then you can see call for help. It's often trying to find players to play with. So it's just kind of like a passive, like you put that on, and then you just play the game, and then you may end up in a game with other people. Now you're playing multiplayer, and it's a very social experience, It's an interesting one. Not sure particularly how I feel about that, but I've been playing it co-op with it on Never, so I haven't really experienced it much at all. Oh, that just reminds me, I meant to speak about the frame gen. Frame gen can usually cause some like weird artifacting. Well, I'll say usually. It depends on the implementation, all that sort of stuff. Depends on game by game basis. In this game, I'm noticing it in the menus. You can see it right now when I flick between these. That is frame gen, like tweaking out essentially. I haven't noticed any frame gen weirdness outside of that. But like I said, this game runs really well. You probably don't need to use frame gen. Voice chat, I turn that off. Text chat, you can turn that on if you wish. But yeah, that's the settings. There's a lot of really, really good stuff in there. It's all really, really nice. My only gripe really was that audio it just only has these 3 sliders. I mean, these are the most likely ones you're going to use, but, one slider for all the SFX in the game. Like, maybe you want to turn down gunshots, maybe you want to turn down explosives, or, something like that. It just would be nice, But it's not the end of the world. Right, other than that, let's actually hop into the game itself, and we can discuss a little bit about the gameplay and how that actually, this doesn't really feel, again, like an evolution of Dying Light, but it feels more of a return to form. If Dying Light 2 didn't really do it for you, and you were looking more for a Dying Light 1 experience again, then I think this one is going to do the job for you. Again, I can't really nail down why this one just feels so much more fun to play than Dying Light 2, but like I said, I think it's just something to do with the pacing, how often it lets you just get out there and play the game compared to 2. But we'll have to see how things go. Like I said, obviously I've been playing this in co-op and for about 6 hours or so, so as always, this is a first impression, so I would always recommend you go out and have a look at other people's reviews if you want to see a more complete view. I'm just here to give you my experience. But yeah, this is a sort of little hub area. If you're familiar with Dying Light at all, you'll be familiar with little hub areas where you can like sleep and skip time. And I'm going to do that right now, actually, because I do not want to be talking about gameplay stuff in the middle of the night, as anyone who knows Dying Light would probably agree with. Now, that's actually one thing about this game, is they said they were going to make nighttime a lot more of a factor, and so far I would say yeah, it is. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about the safe house. We've got crafting. Of course we have crafting. Again, that's just sort of a staple of this series at this point, you know, being able to craft all your little, like, weapon mods and Molotovs and all sorts of different equipment and all that sort of stuff, but pretty standard in that regard. It's nothing too crazy. It's kind of what you'd expect. In fact, I'll just show it here to you now, crafting. You just go in here, you pick up all this stuff as you just go throughout the game and loot zombies in different areas, and then you just come over to the left and you can filter it by whatever, and you can be like, I wish to create a decoy, so I will make that, and then there you've got a decoy. You can also upgrade them as well. You're like blueprints for your craftables by finding little manuals, and then you can make them better. So that's always nice. Yeah, let's actually get out there into the world, if I can remember how to actually get out. There we go. It's F. I always hit A in this game, and it's because I use F for stuff. E is for kick. Like that. Or, if you're feeling particularly spicy, the drop kick. Because of course we have to have the drop kick, and it's just as fun as ever. Hitting zombies off of rooftops and stuff. The melee combat feels really good in this game. Now the series has never really faltered in that regard, but this one takes it sort of to the next level with its dismemberment and gore. Like, it's pretty gory. It's pretty damn gory. Like, you hit a zombie like with a hammer, head burst open, like you slash them with a bladed weapon, and suddenly, you know, they've got cuts and lacerations all over the place. The zombie just died. Natural causes. Didn't think that could happen. Yeah, so the gameplay in terms of the actual zombie combat feels really good. My one slight gripe with it, and maybe this is because I'm playing on the hardest difficulty, but it feels like the grabbing from the zombies is extremely aggressive. And yeah, just extremely aggressive. It feels like it just happens instantly sometimes. Like, it feels like there's almost no wind up to the zombies' grab. Whereas before it felt like they had to sort of, you know, both hands out, they were kind of shamble at you, and then that sort of signified like, hey, this zombie is going to grab you. Whereas sometimes now, whenever you're fighting a zombie, I could be standing here, and if I stop hitting them for like a second, they could just go for the grab. And this isn't so much of an issue from like, well, of course a zombie would be able to do that, you know, just grab you straight up. It's realistic, which, you know, silly argument, but you could say that. But what it does do is impacts the flow of combat. So that one there, like, that obviously makes sense. I got grabbed there. That's no issue at all. But when you're actually in the combat, it can feel very frustrating when dealing with sort of like a crowd, and you almost like can't tell. You know, it's hard to defend against. It's a case of the game not displaying the information for the player in a good enough way, in my opinion. It's not the fact that I'm being grabbed. It's not the fact that I'm being grabbed repeatedly. It's the fact that the game is not letting me know that this could be a thing that's about to happen. You know? I mean you could go with the argument of like, well, you should just not fight big hordes of zombies, in which case I would say, then what are we even doing here? That's a part of the fun. And I don't think this is a brutal difficulty thing. I think this is just an overtuned grab thing. You know, and again, it's not the end of the world. It's just something I've noticed with the combat, and it's really my only negative for it, because it feels really good. The stamina-based nature of it, the swings feel good. On this difficulty, you do not have a lot of stamina. It comes back quite slowly. Anything that increases stamina, like, I am looking forward to massively on this difficulty. But yeah, like I said, it's not like a major drawback. The combat is still a ton of fun. Feels really good to just smack zombies about, especially with all the new, like, gore and dismemberment. Like, the feedback on what you're actually, like, hitting these zombies with feels really, really nice. There is one slight issue with, now if I speak on the co-op side of things, now I haven't had this issue at all single player, but in the co-op, certainly there can be a nasty little bit of desync when it gets into the combat. Now, it's maybe like 1 in every like 7 hits or so, I would notice that my friend I was playing co-op with, they would swing at a zombie and nothing would happen to the zombie, and then suddenly, you know, like 3 seconds later, the zombie would just like cut in half. So that sort of thing. It's a little bit annoying, especially considering the first Dying Light didn't really seem to have this issue, so, and Dying Light 2 didn't have this issue either, so it's a strange one. I'm not really too sure why that's suddenly an issue. Other than that, co-op issues-wise, we have had some desync where one player is in perpetual nighttime, which was a funny one. Even like going and resting at the bed, even going into his own game and back again into mine didn't fix it. It was just perpetual nighttime. Had to like actually fully like close the game and sort of get it back that way. So yeah, that was a little bit of an interesting one. Again, just never really had these issues in Dying Light 1, so, or Dying Light 2, so it's just interesting to see them here. I'm not sure what's going on with that, and I can hope they can get that fixed out quick, because Dying Light, I would say for a lot of people, is very much a co-op experience, and to have those sorts of bugs can be a real dampener on that sort of thing. Especially if, like, you know, there's more bugs, like maybe we got lucky and that's pretty tame, and maybe there's more. I haven't really properly looked into what other people's issues they've had yet, but you never know. Other than that, it's been a ton of fun playing in co-op. There's you know, cross progression, so anything you do in your co-op player's game will happen for you in your game as well, which I believe is different from Dying Light 1. I can't quite remember with 2 because I only played that in co-op. Yeah, anything you do in one game happens in yours as well, which is very nice. Let's drop kick you into you, because that's always fun. And then, as always with Dying Light, you know, we've got parkour. It's a bit funny, I was saying to my friend when we were playing co-op that the only real way to get that, like, Mirror's Edge experience anymore seems to be, like, through the Dying Light series, funnily enough. And, like, obviously there'll be the odd indie game that does, like, the parkour heavily, like Ghost Runner and stuff like that, but for this sort of scale, you know, this type of game. But yeah, the parkour feels really good. There is no, like, parkour XP from the first Dying Light. It's all just a universal XP bar. You don't get XP from doing, like, cool parkour stuff, which, you know, some people like, some people don't like. Just sort of the way it is, the way they've gone with it. You can still level up parkour things. Like, there is a skill tree for it. In fact, I'll show you that skill tree here in a second. Now, my probably biggest criticism for Dying Light the Beast currently is that the parkour feels fine. It feels like on par with like Dying Light 1. But the actual city that we're exploring does not feel as interesting as the one in the first Dying Light. And this was the same for Dying Light 2 as well. So it feels like we kind of nailed it with the first one, and we don't want to just do that again. We kind of want to do something different, but it seems like they just can't really nail it to quite the same degree. And that is to say that there might be another map. There could be other maps that are like quite significantly different from this later, but certainly in this big open area, which is a significant portion of the game that will probably be in for a while, the parkour just doesn't have the same flow to it. Dying Light 1 city felt designed with the parkour in mind, and it didn't really care if things were laid out in such a way that was like obvious that like, hey, this is a parkour area or whatever. It feels like they're going with the idea of, we want to make a realistic city that has parkour in it, rather than make a parkour city that we then try to make realistic, if that makes sense. So that's sort of my probably only actual major gripe with the game, is the parkour feels fine from an actual gameplay perspective. How it feels to actually like jump over things, and the momentum, that all feels, you know, as good as it ever has. But the actual joy of running around the city just isn't quite there when it comes to the first game. I will say the dropkick feels as good as it ever has. The dropkick is just one of my personal favorites. There's also a charged kick as well. You can do that as well. Uses slightly less stamina. You can kind of do it freely wherever you want. Climb up here, get away from you. So there's a skill system as well. So like I said, you can level up your... You can actually level up your parkour stuff. So I'll get to the... I'll just get on top of this thing. I'll show it to you. So we'll just show you the inventory and the map and stuff. So you've got your pretty typical map. It's kind of laid out like this sort of like, you know, touristy kind of map, which is kind of nice. One weird thing about this map, though, is north, when you're looking at this map, is not north when you are looking at the compass in the game. So if I'm looking directly north, compass at the top, that is north over there, and I open up the map, I am looking to the bottom left. This is strange. I haven't really noticed it too much, but my friend that I was playing co-op with, this was really throwing him for navigation. Which I can totally understand. It's a strange way, you know, it's not something you really expect. You really expect, like, up on the map to be north in the world as well. But just a slight thing, again, it's just a weird one. But you've got all sorts of stuff to do, you know, you've got, like, convoys to go and raid and get some, like, military stuff. You've got some dark zones to go and sneak into, they're dangerous, you know, stuff like that. So, plenty of stuff to be doing. It doesn't feel too bloated. Feels pretty nice. There's also safe zones you can go and open up. We've opened up a couple of those so far. They're always fun. They're like a fun little parkour climbing puzzle to get to the top of. Kind of feels like, I mean, honestly, it feels like Ubisoft climb towers, you know, to survey area type stuff, but done just that little bit better, you know. And it's not something you, like, really feel like you have to do. Like, if you don't want to get that safe house, fine. But, you know, if you were playing a Far Cry, like, you gotta climb that tower to find stuff. Because the game is just sort of designed around with that idea. So you got your journal, as where you just see your quest stuff, blah, blah, blah. Inventory, you've got 4 slots for weapons, 4 slots for gadgets, 4 slots for consumables. These translate to 1, 2, and 3 on your keyboard when you're standing here like this, so you can see down the bottom left. So all my gadgets are in the 1 slot. I hit 1 to swap between them. I hit middle mouse button to activate the 1 slot. I've actually just done that because I didn't mean to do that. Well, I'll never get that back. 2, to swap through all your different healing items. You just get tons of, like, healing drinks and chocolate bars and stuff, but if you want to use them all quickly, it's a little bit annoying because you can't just hold H and rapid fire through them. You have to press it for each one every time. I feel like you should just be able to hold H and just rapid fire through the animation. Not like skip the animation, but just have it queued up, like go back to back. And then you press 3 to swap between the 4 different weapons that are in your slot there. That feels very console-ified. That feels like a D-pad thing, limitation. It'd be nice to have our weapons on like 1, 2, 3, and 4, so I don't have to cycle through them, maybe forgetting, like, you know, what order I've put it in, or if I go past one accidentally, now you cycle through to the next one. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's just slightly annoying as a PC player, you know. It would be nice to have those on individual keys that I can use. Other than that, you also have your gear slot. Gear so far has armor, and then we've noticed that some of it has sort of unique effects. So I've got this Explorer set that I've got some of. That gives me plus 2% XP gain for each piece. If you get all of them, you're up to like 10%. Then I've got this like big chest piece and these jeans that are giving me like a bunch of extra stats and buffs and stuff like that. On this difficulty, I haven't noticed gear really keeping us alive much more, but every little helps, I suppose. You also have loadouts, so you can quickly switch between different loadouts. I haven't really found much need for that yet, but we'll see how things go as the game progresses. And then you've got your backpack, which is just all your stuff. You get these co-op loot packs. I just realized I haven't opened this one. Just playing together, you just get random little loot packs that you open up, and they'll just have random stuff in them. So if we just open this up, I got a hand grenade, and I got some saber claws as a weapon, and I got some cigarettes. So yeah, you just get those for playing the game. It's kind of nice. All your loot and stuff is divided into, like, you know, rarities. So you got like a rare resource, you got like an epic resource, you know, pistol ammunition is epic and all that, because, you know, guns are harder to come by in this world. Guns are really strong. I believe they have fleshed out their gun system a lot more. The guns feel really nice to actually, like, use and shoot in this one, whereas I always felt in Dying Light 1 especially, guns felt very... The game was not designed for guns, but they kind of felt like they had to have guns. Whereas this one, it feels like these guns are actually really nice. They're not like super easy. You're not talking like a Twitch shooter type of aiming. It feels almost more like a mill sim with like some weight to like the aiming and stuff. So you can't just like tap, 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 tap. You know, it's a little bit of like, oh, am I aiming there properly? Which is quite nice. I mean, if you're gonna add guns into your zombie game, but you still want to incentivize the melee weapons, then that's probably a good way to do it. There's a guy with a little hazmat suit on here. They're always fun. So we boot you off the roof. I believe. No, it didn't explode. They have a little tank on the back that sometimes explodes, but then it summons like a load of runners because they hear the noise. Showed you the crafting screen earlier, and then you've got your skills screen. So, big part of this game, the Beast. So, our main guy, Kyle Crane, your man from the first game, which, funnily enough, the game has a previously in Dying Light sort of sequence that you can play. Sorry, not play, but you can watch. It doesn't mention Dying Light 2 at all. It feels like we're in a Devil May Cry situation here, where the second game in the series is just kind of being ignored, which is quite funny. But yeah, you got the Beast, and basically this turns you into like a mini Hulk kind of brute form, and you can just run around punching zombies, and you still take damage and stuff, but you do a ton of melee damage, and you're very tanky and stuff like that. Now, initially in the game, you cannot control when this is activated. It sort of builds up as a meter and kicks off every now and again. Now, this has the advantages of fitting with the story, in that Kyle Crane cannot control this. You know, it's called the Beast. You know, it's sort of a form that just sort of happens to him every now and again, and the gameplay reinforces that. However, it does mean that this will activate at very underwhelming times sometimes, and you'll just be like, oh, well, I've gone beast mode, unfortunate. You can cancel it with Z and X, but it consumes half the bar. So it's not like you can cancel it and then just, you know, a couple of fights later, then you're back to it. You're pretty much giving it up for, you know, a portion of the bar. Now, as you beat sort of boss zombies, they're called Chimera, you will get, like, their DNA, and then you can inject it into yourself, and then that makes you stronger in beast form. This is a unique form of progression separate from the XP system. Now, at some point you will gain the ability to control the beast mode, and you can activate it whenever you want. So I'm interested to see how this is going to feel once you can do that. So that'll feel very good. So there's a bunch of different skills. There's like, you know, in beast mode you can pick up a giant boulder and chuck it about the place, or you can just go into like a supercharge, a furious charge they call it. You know, extend your jump and stuff like this. So I feel like once you get to the final bit at the end here and you've got the full beast suite of skills, I feel like that beast mode is going to feel very strong. And then other than that, you've got your 3 trees for actual leveling up, and you get skill points, and they have various different things, you know. It's all very based on the first game and second game to a lesser extent. You know, you can level up your parkour, so dash longer, you can jump over enemies' heads. First thing I got was the dropkick. I mean, immediately that was the first thing I got. There's kind of like a little bit of a survival-y tree down here. Yeah, survival skills, so you can like craft a flamethrower, or you're harder to see when you're stealthing. Agility skills, you know, reduce fall damage and all that sort of stuff. So these are fine. They're fun skills as well. Like, we're not talking any 5% more damage when you've got a purple item in your backpack. Like, you know, there's nothing stupid like that. It's I've never even noticed this little screen that sort of tells you all about them. That's nice. These are good skills. They're not terribly different from previous Dying Lights, but they're good skills. They're fun. And then you've also got collections, which is different collectibles. There's like treasure maps and stuff like that. So haven't really found too many of those. Well, I found a treasure map, but haven't really done much of the collectible stuff. But yeah. So, other than that, story-wise, like I said, it's our main man. It's Kyle Crane again from the first Dying Light. He is back. He was experimented on, and now he is the Beast. And we're going on a big revenge story. Oh, we've just activated beast mode there. So, like, it's just activated sort of because the meter down the bottom left, which fills up by me hitting enemies and me getting hit. And then we can just sort of walk around smacking zombies. This can be a lot of fun whenever you're faced off with, like, suddenly a big horde that's sort of emerged out of nowhere, and you're suddenly like, oh, this is actually quite a lot, I don't know if we can handle this. And then one of you goes beast mode and just starts tearing through them, you know. It's a cool feeling when the random triggering of it hits. I say random, it's the bar in the bottom left. You kind of know when it's going to hit, but you have no actual control until you get that skill. Excuse me. Yeah, story-wise, it's more hands-off in the sense that it's less like we have a direct goal, here's a mission, here's a mission, here's a mission. It's more so we've been thrown out into the open world. There's a character that sort of helps us at the start, and she's going to help us get revenge. We need to get more powerful by killing those big zombies and upgrading our beast mode, and we need to make allies. So that's really the game so far. Very open, could go anywhere from there. I think I like that more hands-off approach. Narratively hands-off, you know, it's less direct. Obviously, we're still just going places and doing missions and stuff, but so far those missions have been fun. There's a lengthy intro mission before you can do co-op and anything like that. That has been the longest, most sort of scripted piece in the entire game by far. After that, you are very much sort of left to your own devices to roam this map if you wish, which is a lot of fun. Me and my friend have found ourselves literally just, hey, we should probably go do that mission, yeah? Okay, yeah, we'll just go kill these zombies here real quick, and then we'll go do that mission, and then, like, you know, like 2 hours later, we've, you know, done several dark zones and opened a safe house. Let's use the gun a little bit. Now, using the guns does attract runners. There we go. So there's a bit of a downside to using loud weapons, as you might imagine. There's also takedowns as well. Whenever zombies get to certain, I think it's, I'm not sure exactly what it's related to. I think it's health pool related plus stagger related. Swing at you. But the melee feels as good as ever. There's a little takedown there, so we'll just smack you, chop you. Good stuff. Yeah, it's the story's an interesting vehicle to get us to interesting places, meeting interesting people, and doing interesting things. That's really all you can really ask for in a game like this. It seems like it's going to be a standard sort of revenge plot, but we'll see how things go. Yeah, game's fun. Game is fun. I just had a good time last night whenever we were playing it. And just, you know, opened it up, played through that tutorial, got into co-op, and just ran around killing zombies, collecting loot, doing all sorts. It doesn't reinvent the Dying Light wheel, but it's just another fun Dying Light experience. And if that's what you were looking for, then that is what this provides. Also looks really nice, you know, just visually, just a very appealingly nice game. And like I said, it's nice to see a game that's actually running well, along with the fact that it looks nice. Haven't had any major performance issues. I suppose actually there is some slight co-op weirdness. I meant to mention this earlier. There is some slight co-op weirdness. I think this only happens when you're the host, but sometimes when you're in co-op, you'll feel it feels like the frame rate is dipping, but it's not. It's like the actual vision you're looking at, the actual look of the game looks like it's getting choppier. But the frame rate in the top left, I've got the counter in the top left for frame rate, it stays the same. So I can only imagine this is somewhat network related, as it only happens in co-op, and I'm pretty sure it's only happening to me as the host. So I'm a little bit unsure what's causing that. Maybe some network instability. It could be some maybe first day launch stuff, you know, tons of people on networks are struggling, and that's their way of sort of lightening the load somewhat. Hard to say, but I hope, again, they get that sorted out, because it is a little bit annoying and puts a slight, just a hint of a dampener on the co-op, where the other two Dying Lights had none of that, you know. So it's just strange that sort of thing exists. And then it's also, you know, just to go back to sort of gameplay stuff, the nighttime in this one does feel scary. The volatiles will come at you fast and heavy. Now the beast mode, I'm curious to see how much that lets us turn the tides in nighttime. You know, they make the nighttime scarier, but they give us a sort of a more interesting way to fight back against it. You know, once that beast meter becomes a lot stronger and more in our control sort of thing. It'll be curious, but yeah. I really hope they had, Dying Light 1 had like a mode where someone could invade your game as a volatile, as like a souped up volatile. I really hope they add that back. I never really got the chance to play it much in Dying Light 1, but it looked really fun from what I'd saw other people play of it, and I'd really like to experience that in this one as well. Yeah, the nighttimes are scary. They're also properly dark, which is fun. Always like a game that has a properly dark nighttime, and this one definitely does. definitely threatening when the game goes, all right, go do this at nighttime. So they've definitely brought back that fear. Dying Light 2, it felt like it was just very easy to just not ever run into a volatile. Nighttime kind of felt more like a, I mean, I guess I'll do it at night. You know, it's not as easy as day, but like, I guess. Whereas this one, yeah, feels better, at least so far anyway. But yeah, that's kind of the lovely Alps here. Obviously, we're not in the same location as well. But yeah, it's fun. Been having a good time. It's also not a full price release. We're talking $49.99 in pound, or we're talking $59.99 in dollars. So not a full price release, which is nice. Although I do believe $49.99 should still be the full price release of a game cost. But that's a conversation for another day, given all the monetization practices that they have going on with games these days. And the, you know, more players that are also buying games these days. But yeah, game's fun. Co-op's fun. Has a few hiccups. I hope they get resolved fast. The city or the town here just isn't quite as fun to explore as the first game's Dying Light, but that's only a minor thing. The parkour itself is actually still just as fun. Story seems like, you know, it's okay. It's an interesting vehicle for getting us from A to B and seeing where we're going to go with that. And the beast mode is a fun addition to the game. It's not game changing, but it's a nice little thing to sort of throw on top of the Dying Light loop. But yeah, I think that's all I really wanted to talk about with this one. I hope you guys have enjoyed the first impressions, and I shall catch you guys on the next one. Goodbye.